Today we are going to go into some shorter time frames, but I overall just wanted to look at a daily chart first. Now, this is important to look at, and we're going to go over this first thing. But first of all, today we are going to be getting into some technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, Nvidia, and AMD. Going to start off with the SPY, and let's get right into it. Looking at the SPY here on the daily, we notice our weekly ranges and our monthly ranges, the top side of that being right up in here. And what were we talking about going into today? We've been talking about this for a couple days. If you tuned into my couple videos over the weekend, we said this is our danger area. We need to pay attention if we get excited and get up in this area, because on the 31st, we could drop below this again, closing back within that monthly range 68% of the time. Now, I am going to post a picture of those updated ranges in the morning because I couldn't get to it before making this video, but I will give you those updated ranges. And if you're part of my Patreon, you're going to get those tonight, all right? So pay attention to that. And if you need those updated ranges for all the stocks that we cover, you can go click on the link down below to my Patreon, okay? Now, the big thing that we wanted to point out here on the daily, the main thing we wanted to go over was there's divergence on the MACD and there's divergence on the RSI at the same time. That has not fully confirmed yet, but it really looks like it's going to. And if this actually does confirm, we could see some huge pain going on for quite some time. So thank you so much if you were subscribed, and give yourself a pat on the back, give yourself a big thumbs up, because we said this is the danger area. We get there for a couple of days and we see that drop off, and now we have the potential to get a big reversal with this divergence. As far as the hourly chart goes, the main thing I want to pay attention to is the MACD. The MACD has just now started to get into negative territory, and we could be starting that negative trend. Okay, so we could be starting a negative trend. That just means, hey, we're in a little bundle of supply in here. So if we wanted to use this as support, we could see some kind of flagging or something like that. We could even see some kind of big reaction. But as of now, you notice that we are in negative territory on the hourly. The trend has flipped to negative. So if we do get some kind of feeble bounce and this MACD is able to roll up, if it rolls back down, we are going to go further into negative territory. And that's going to mean, hey, we're definitely in a negative trend and it is time to have our bear hats on. Something easy to pay attention to, if this is some kind of cupping and we do create some kind of handle, well, we could see a pretty big measured move down from here. Okay, so the point that I really want to pay attention to in the near price action is going to be all of this price action here, right? This big amount of price action. This is where we could most likely see a better bounce. So as of right now, I'm looking for maybe some flagging early on in the morning on these hourly charts. But once we get into this area, we could get a bigger bounce is what I would say. And that's where we need to pay attention to the VIX. And we're going to get into that at the end of this video. But I just wanted to show you guys how the hourly is in that negative territory. We had the divergences up here at the same time, and those were proving to be right. The technicals here got it right because we got some bad news. The Qs on the daily look like we are going to not have this divergence proven. It looked like this was about to come up, but now we're getting that sell-off. So what we need to pay attention to here is the confirmation of this divergence. You have divergence up here at the same time on the MACD and the RSI. So if this wants to continue selling off, we even have my little sell signal up here. We could see further selling now. And I told you this could be some kind of sudden drop. Now on the daily, you're going to see this a little bit better. We could come all the way down into this area here in the very near future. We could see something like this set up to give us some kind of little head and shoulders and then head to lower levels. I really think that we are going to start to head much, much lower, maybe even cutting out our previous lows back from 2022. Last thing on the daily, I should put a thumbs up here as well, because guess what? This was our danger zone. This little gap right in between here was our danger zone. We come up into that area for a short period of time. We kind of go sideways like we want to move higher. The SPY actually reached a higher high here, and we kind of saw this evenness of the SPY. The Qs did not confirm that. So we're seeing that kind of divergence between the SPY and the Qs come into play at the end here. And now we're seeing that sell-off. So if this does confirm, we're going to see some pain in the overall market. I just want to pull up an hourly real quick, and this thing's got to load because my internet's being a little wonky. But as that does load, we can just notice that there's no real structure at this point, and this right here could cut through like butter. Okay, so because we don't have a lot in this area right here, we could cut through that pretty quick before we see some kind of bounce. And if we just look here, we want to pay attention to our weekly ranges. If we do get to this weekly range pretty quick, We could see a bounce from there, but this is where we need to pay attention to the MACD. Okay, the MACD is well within negative territory on the hourly here for the Qs, and that's what we really need to pay attention to, because if we do get some kind of support around this weekly expected move using some liquidity up in here, we could see just some kind of flagging, some kind of bounce that then rolls this MACD back over in negative territory, right? So we continue that negative trend. This is what we have been waiting for, and now we see that negativity coming in. We will be giving you those updated ranges for the month of February tomorrow morning for YouTube, and tonight I'm going to work on it right after this and get it to you on Patreon, okay? So if you want the monthly ranges for Apple and the Qs and all the stuff that we're covering here, just go click that link down there, okay? Give it a look, give it a try for a month, see how you like it, okay? It really does help when it comes to profit taking and how to position yourself for the rest of the month. Now, one thing that we did notice with Apple was on this daily scale here, we got down into negative territory with this last, downward move, and we popped back up, and now we're starting to roll back down, and guess what? We're rolling back down into negative territory, which means we're going to test this low or go make a new one. And the big thing here that I noticed with Apple was the fact that we weren't confirming a move higher while the SPY and the Qs were kind of coming up a little bit. Apple was not, and it's a big, big stock to pay attention to. It's one of the most traded stocks. It's one of the highest cap stocks, and it is very, very popular. So it's something to pay attention to if it's not making a higher high while everything else is. And this was a hint for us. We see that drop off. Now we're curling over into negative territory on the daily. It looks like bad news. This is one thing that we'll cover over the weekend, but these weekly charts is something that we'll really need to cover. We have that divergence that has officially confirmed. And if this gets into negative territory, we can see serious pain over the next 6 months to a year. So we really want to pay attention to these charts. I really think some kind of crash is actually happening right now, and we're going to go into a bear market. Hourly, you are going to notice the same thing as the SPY and the Qs. We are very deep in negative territory, so if we do get some kind of curl up, if we curl back down, we're going to be further in that negative territory, continuing that negative trend. So something that we were paying attention to was if we got a bounce out of this zone, and we mentioned both sides of the coin, we said to pay attention to this, right? We came back down in this zone and we saw this flagging up. And the overall thing here was, hey, we could get some kind of bounce from this zone because we like to do that a lot of the time. We like to break out of a zone, touch in it, and then go higher. But in this case, we do have flagging coming out of that zone. So that just tells us, hey, we have to pay attention to both sides. We immediately break down and continue this negative trend. And as of right now, you're remaining in that negative territory, and it's continuing even further with earnings right around the corner on Friday. So we really have to pay attention to Apple this week. If we do see some kind of bounce, I'm really paying attention to some kind of full big cup being closed, and then we see some kind of handle, and then we can see what happens from there and see if we want to drop to lower levels. Earnings are not doing good things for stocks right now, so we really need to be careful around earnings. And if I don't know what the numbers are going to be, so I will be staying away from Apple on Friday. All right, and we've covered a lot of those daily charts. The overall, consensus on all these daily charts is, wow, this is going to get really bad if we continue selling off. And it really is a high probability that we are going to continue selling off. So I think we do have some big pain coming in 2024. For Amazon on the hourly here, the big thing is we had this big divergence over here and we waited for it to confirm. If we waited for it to confirm, or we took little bits and pieces in these little confirmations, and we stayed true to our program here, we can see that we got into that negative territory. That's the big thing. And we do have earnings as of Friday on Amazon as well. So that will be very interesting. Now, there's a lot of points that we can go over here, so I'm just going to give you the most recent one. We're in this area of liquidity, so if we did want to create some kind of left head and then create some kind of right shoulder, that would make a lot of sense to break down lower. So we just want to pay attention to this going into tomorrow, but as of right now, you're in negative territory. Good chance that you remain there and keep this negative trend. Tesla on the hourly, some bad things with earnings. We dropped off pretty significantly. We've seen that buy back up, and I'm sorry my dog's just running around in the background, but he was locked away all day, so I want him to be able to run around. The big thing with this here is we saw that cup, we got a handle, we saw that little move higher, but we didn't necessarily contain that move, right? We actually somehow completed another cup, little cup here, and got a handle. It just tells me we're most likely going to test this low. But the big thing on Tesla I wanted to point out was we're rolling over on the hourly in negative territory. That means that if we do see this low broken, we are going to see that negative trend continue and head to lower levels. I have a point of 154.78 marked off for you, so I'd pay attention to that level in the near future. Nvidia did something very, very cool for you. If you were paying attention to it, you would have caught it. It was a great time to take this trade on the short side. You notice that you have these two highs going up into a very, very important news, right? That interest rate news, it's very, very important. And we noticed that on the MACD, we had this steep divergence. And we had a steep divergence on the RSI at the same time that got us very close to negative territory. Now, that just tells you, hey, this is a great place to take profit. This is a great place to even maybe go short at this point. And how could this break down further? So this could, because how fast we went up here, it could go just as fast the other way, even faster if we wanted to. Now, how I see it breaking down in the near future, we got some flagging going on here, right? But if we actually create some kind of right shoulder up in here, bait some people in, we could see this break down even further. Maybe cut to this, maybe go down into this level here that we broke out of, that 570. So we really want to pay attention to Nvidia because it gave us a very clear hourly signal that it was going to head lower. You got to be a little careful with Nvidia though, because it's not in negative territory. Unlike AMD is in negative territory, and when we see these little bounces, we could see significant curl ups if we want to break some trend lines. But is this just going to be some kind of head and shoulders, right? So if we do see this roll back up, we'd be paying attention to a very similar thing. If this rolls up and rolls back down into negative territory, we're going to see negativity continue. If we take out this low, we're going to make a new one. So this is something to pay attention to. AMD not producing the best numbers on earnings, getting some buying back up, but is that just going to curl over again and then continue this negative trend? Most likely that is the case. And we just have to pay attention to that. But Nvidia could be a different story where it actually wants to hold up a little bit. The coolest part about AMD was we have those monthly ranges up for AMD here. You'll notice that 162.03. Where did we actually get some support at? Right around that 162.03. You can use these monthly ranges once you break out of them as support. But we want to see, is this going to break down? Are we going to create some kind of head and shoulders? Or is this some kind of big cup with a handle to head lower? I really think this negative trend is going to continue for AMD. The VIX, we were mostly talking about, hey, we're probably going to come fill this gap. We may even go test lower levels. I really thought we had a good chance to maybe even get the SPY to go up a little bit higher, maybe test that weekly range, but we didn't want to do that, okay? So we did fill this gap, and then we see that big reaction once we get some news. Up in this area, we could get some wonky price action, but I'd really be paying attention to if we're able to break out of this range we've been in for quite some time and hold outside that range. The biggest thing that we need to pay attention to on the VIX, and we're going to bring this up every single video, is the weekly chart. We'll notice the weekly chart here. What are we getting down here on the MACD? We're getting green. We're getting a green impression on the histogram on the weekly with a divergence on the MACD and the RSI at the same time. The last time that we had this type of stuff, the last time that the weekly was able to get into positive territory, we saw spikes as high as 36. And in some drastic cases, we saw spikes as high as 85.93. So we really need to pay attention to this signal, and it really tells you, hey, there is most likely a bear market coming in 2024, and it might be starting right now. So the main takeaway here is we got to the point that we were really paying attention to this week. And if you were part of my Patreon, I even sent out a little message last night, and I just said, hey, we need to be careful. This is the area where we need to be very careful. This could all be ripped away tomorrow. And guess what? Today it was all ripped away. Now we're starting those negative trends on hourly charts, and we got to see if we can continue them. And I really think we have a good probability to continue them for quite some time. Thank you so much for watching. I rushed in, so I'm sorry if this video seemed a little bit rushed, but thank you so much for watching, subscribing, commenting, liking, joining my Patreon. You guys have been fantastic, and I hope that this didn't surprise you too much, and I hope you were able to position yourself correctly. I really do. Good luck on trading tomorrow. I really hope you have all the luck in the world trading tomorrow and the rest of this week. And other than that, have a good night. Peace.